Coming up next on Arizona Horizon. It's almost June and the state legislature is still in session. We'll find out why in our weekly legislative update with the Arizona Capital Times. We'll learn about the latest efforts to keep the Phoenix Coyotes hockey team in Glendale. And we'll hear about a new Mesa facility designed to extract biorubber from a desert plant. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Medicaid expansion is still topic one at the state legislature. It's the primary reason that lawmakers are still in session. Joining us now for our weekly legislative update is Luigi Del Puerto of the Arizona Capital Times. Luigi, good to have you here. What is the latest on Medicaid expansion?
Nothing happened in the House this week on the Medicaid expansion front, and we are not expecting anything this week. However, as I had mentioned earlier, there were three options about how to proceed, and right now there's really only just one, and that's the governor's proposal. And that's because Speaker Andy Tobin had concluded that he cannot get the votes to pass his proposal to ask the voters what to do with this issue.
Could not get the votes in the House, or knew he couldn't get the votes in the Senate?
He said he could not get the votes in the House, and it's also very certain that he could not get the votes in the Senate.
Apparently, it sounds to me like lawmakers in the House, they either get it passed, get it out of here, or kill it and let's go home.
Certainly, we are seeing that sentiment, that anxiousness to get going and get this thing wrapped up.
I thought that Tobin, one of the reasons the Speaker was going this route is because he was concerned about Prop 108, the idea that a two-thirds majority is needed to vote in a tax increase, which he sees this as. Others, of course, obviously don't. What happened to that argument?
He believes that that's still the case. But, of course, his idea of resolving that issue by sending this to the voters is not going anywhere. And so even if he still believes that this needs a Prop 108, therefore a two-thirds vote to pass, he can't get the votes to refer it to the ballot. And so he's conceded that point.
Now, what about the idea of getting enough votes just to pass the House, and not the two-thirds, just a majority? Are those votes there?
The sentiment all along is that there's the votes in the House to do it. There are 8 Republicans that we know of that are willing to support the governor's expansion proposal. That's enough, along with the Democrats, to pass this.
So the votes are there, but it sounds like he's not convinced the votes are there.
Well, what's happening right now is that he is trying to work for ways to amend the governor's proposal in order to include what he thinks are necessary to satisfy some of his concerns. And he wants to, for example, to put in some accountability measures and some transparency measures in the proposal.
So this is a tighter circuit breaker. The governor wants 80, he wants 85 or 90 or something along those lines. If the feds go below that threshold, boom, the whole thing is over.
Yes, he doesn't want a 20% drop before
Yes.
we terminate this program. In addition, I think he wants to ensure that this assessment fee on the hospitals is not going to be passed on to patients. And some of those provisions that he's wanting in the Medicaid proposal have actually already been included in the current version. So it would be interesting to see what else he could get and what else would be added to this proposal when they're ready to address it.
Is the consensus that he can provide cover for Republicans in the House if he goes ahead and votes, let's just get this out of here, let's get it passed and move on, and allow for a lot of folks to say no, even though it's going to be a yes?
Certainly, if the Speaker of the House got some of the things that he wanted and it satisfies his concerns and he ends up voting for this proposal, it would provide his colleagues, Republican colleagues, a lot of political cover. They could then say, our leadership voted for it, we fought it, we had concerns about it, we tried to get the best deal that we could, and we let the Speaker try to do that for us, and this is the best deal that he could get, and therefore we went with him.
Now, okay, so the idea of the Speaker is sending this or referring this by way of the legislature to the ballot for a vote, that looks like it's pretty much
That's dead.
Done
That's
deal.
dead.
Yeah. But there's a move from former lawmakers to get this on the ballot in another way. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so the Arizona Constitution, which was created during a more populist time, allowed for the voters to challenge any law or any section of a law via what's called the referendum process. Now, you only need 5% of the signatures that were cast in the last gubernatorial race for governor. Therefore, there's fewer signatures that you need to challenge the law. So essentially, they are thinking that they could get the signatures to put this question on the ballot. So what's going to happen, assuming they can get the signatures to challenge this law, is that in the meantime, this Medicaid expansion would be put on hold because the Arizona Constitution says we have to wait until the next general election. Of course, that creates all sorts of complications about this whole policy.
I was going to say, it sounds as though, let's say they get the 86,000 or whatever they need there as far as putting this on the ballot. Just getting it on the ballot delays the whole thing because you can't go through with the law until it's voted on. That's what, November 2014?
Yes, and precisely that's what some of them are hoping for. For example, Frank Antinori, a former lawmaker who might be spearheading this effort along with former Senator Ron Gould, said, hey, if we can delay this one, that would be a big win for us.
But can you do this constitutionally? I read as well that if it's part of the budget, that you really can't do that. Is there arguments pro and con on that?
The legal route to this issue is pretty circuitous at this point. The governor's office thinks that there's a shield against a referendum challenge to Medicaid expansion. The governor's office has dug up I think a 1992 Court of Appeals ruling that basically says there's some flexibility and some broad interpretation as to what is considered an appropriations measure, or rather, what could be excluded from a referendum challenge. And if a tax measure that's meant to support operations of government, meaning to say, support a budget plan, that would be off limits to the referendum process. Obviously, if there's a referendum challenge, it will get hammered with a legal challenge from those who support the expansion plan.
All right, so that should be very fun to watch there. That'll be very interesting to see if they can. But it sounds like rank and file GOP precinct committee folks, they're saying we can get out and get those signatures no problem.
It's always very tough to get a proposal, a measure, an initiative on the ballot without paid circulators. So that would be the safest route for them to have the money to hire paid circulators and get the signatures, because they have 3 months to do this. They have to gather 86,000 signatures within 3 months.
Before we go, we got about a minute left. The Arizona Supreme Court, going to take a look at this idea of funding education with inflation increases. What's going on here?
So 3 years ago, we passed a law that basically said we are going to not fully fund inflationary adjustments for our schools. And several school districts sued, and it went through the Superior Court and then the Appeals Court. And the Appeals Court sided with the plaintiffs. The state appealed, and now the Supreme Court has decided that they will take a look and review this case.
All right. By the way, have adjustments for inflation, are they included in the budgets that are floating around the Capitol?
The prevailing sentiment at the Capitol is let's go ahead and do this one in the meantime.
So
they did set aside some $82 million for it for now.
All right. Luigi, good stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Glendale officials met yesterday with the commissioner of the National Hockey League and executives of a Canadian business group that's interested in buying the Phoenix Coyotes. Paul Giblin of the Arizona Republic has been covering this story. He joins us now. Paul, it's good to see you again, although it seems as though we kind of go over this repeatedly. But what is the latest now on the sale of the Phoenix Coyotes?
Well, as you mentioned, the group is called Renaissance Sports and Entertainment, came into Glendale yesterday. They're led by 2 Canadians, and there's also 2 Americans who are principals in this organization. They came and they met with the mayor, the city manager, and then 2 groups of city councilmen, and presented their ideas and spoke about their optimism of getting a deal done.
Okay, well now we've heard this particular song before. What about this group is different than previous groups that have come in and met and expressed optimism?
Well, an important difference is that the NHL has approved this group. They say that the money is in place for this group to buy the team, and the only condition that's left is for this group to work out a deal with the city of Glendale to operate and presumably manage Jobing.com Arena.
Does that suggest that if the deal's in place with the NHL, provided you can get Glendale to play along, if Glendale doesn't play along, the deal is still in place with these guys, go find a new home?
Not exactly.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. The way I've spoken to both of these two Canadian guys who are leading the operation there, and they said their interest in the Coyotes is contingent upon getting a deal with Glendale. Now, if they don't get a deal with Glendale that meets their needs, then they're no longer interested in the Coyotes. That's not interested in the Coyotes in Glendale or anywhere else for that matter.
Interesting. What are their needs? Are they letting you know, or anyone know?
They sort of are. The arena has always been managed by whichever group owned the Coyotes. The last time that Glendale got this far was with a guy named Greg Jameson. They offered to pay him $15 million a year to manage the arena. So these new guys come in and they say, hey, that $15 million a year looks kind of nice. But since then, the city has looked at that a second time and said, we're more comfortable paying about $6 million a year. So that's kind of a margin.
I was going to say, you may be more comfortable paying $6 million, but I'm guessing that ownership group is going to be looking for somewhere far above that.
Well, keep this in mind, too. The city was paying the NHL $25 million
Right.
to operate the arena. They offered this other guy, Greg Jameson, $15 million, and now they say $6 million. So the NHL is kind of conditioned to taking in a lot more money.
Well, with that in mind, let's say you keep it at 6 or at 7 or at 8 at the lower end of the spectrum. Are there other revenue streams that might be included to kind of spice up the mix?
There's a lot of discussion about that just in the last week or two, because the feeling is that these guys aren't going to be too satisfied with $6 million. So they're thinking about other revenue streams. They're thinking about how much revenue do the Coyotes bring to the city, and can they tap in those revenue streams like restaurant taxes and those sort of things. But that brings up other questions. So if you take all the money that the Coyotes bring to the city and you give it back to the Coyotes, what's the gain for the city?
Right. So I would imagine that particular argument is all over the map.
Well, that particular argument is happening behind closed doors right now, Ted,
Yeah.
because simultaneous to all this is a crazy story. The city has also requested bids by management companies around the country to manage the arena. Those are due on Friday.
Have they been getting many bids? Do we know who's interested? Or is that all private until?
That's private. I've spoken to city officials, and they tell me, yeah, we're getting a lot. But I don't know how many. I don't know who's bidding on them. But that should become real apparent on Friday.
I would say, you could have Ted's management company bidding on this as well.
Well, if Ted's management company and $25 million a year, you probably do real well.
I've got my, I've got the papers and the I's crossed and everything. Is there any talk, and I've thrown this out in the past, and it's usually shot down pretty quickly, but is there any talk of the team staying in the Valley, but not in Glendale?
I haven't heard that. I mean, there's issues. For instance, when they first got to town, they tried playing downtown, but that's a basketball arena down there, and so that didn't work for them. There was discussion about them going to Scottsdale for years and years. That never came to happen. And then they built this brand new hockey-specific arena out there in Glendale. This is a perfect place for them to play from a hockey point of view, and there's really nothing else quite equal to that.
And yet, I mean, the Suns are kind of making noises, the arena's getting old, needs some refurbishing, maybe you look at Salt River Fields at Talking Stick, that is a colossal success out there. We've got Indian tribe involvement with casinos, that could be a problem. But it seems as though they're... Again, I'm playing Monopoly here.
Ted, if you do this to me, and I start chasing Indian tribes building...
I know. So what do we look for next? This Renaissance company, is this on a scale of 1 to 10? I mean, give me a chance that this could actually be serious business here.
Well, these guys are serious. This is George Cosby, who's an investment kind of guy up in Canada, and you got Anthony LeBlanc. He was a big wig with the company that made Blackberries, and this guy retired at 38 and quite well. Then they have two other guys from the United States, one in Connecticut and one in Houston. And so these guys really represent a lot of money, and they tell me that beyond the four of them, they have friends and neighbors who can contribute millions and millions and more. So this is a good, solid group. if they can get the deal with Glendale.
How often are they meeting that you know?
Oh, good question. They met yesterday with a series of meetings, and then so I was asking city officials, so when's your next meeting? They said, oh, well, none are scheduled yet.
Oh,
and I said,
brother.
well, what paperwork did they leave? Because I sure would like those.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll do my records request right away. And they said, oh, well, they didn't leave any paperwork either. So they came and they said they're very interested in the team and they want to work with the city, but they haven't even gotten to a starting point, at least one that you can trace by paper.
Last question. In your dealing with city officials, let's keep it narrow to city officials.
Okay.
Are you sensing fatigue, optimism, maybe a mix of both? I mean, at some point, I mean, people are just going to say, "This, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. Let's move on."
Well, interestingly, that 4 of the 7 members of the city council are brand new. They weren't on the council last year, so they haven't been through this like the previous council members. But they also came in when there's really not as much money left in the city. The city used to spend a lot of money, but now they're on a pretty tight budget. They're not allowing the police department to expand. They're not allowing the fire department to expand. In fact, every city department is losing employees, and they're getting rid of those positions. They're not replacing them. They're just getting rid of the positions. So the finances are tightening up with the city, and that makes it tougher.
I just thought of another last question.
Yes, sir.
The businesses around there that are supposed to benefit from the Coyotes, that are supposed to be the ones that are really wanting to keep that team there, do they really want to keep that team there?
Well, good question. Tanger Outlet Mall opened just outside of the arena. That's it's a shopping mall where they sell cheap clothes and stuff for cheap. That's doing really well. That's doing really well, better than any city officials expected. Now, the other businesses around there, a lot of restaurants and bars and those sort of things, those are more tied to the Coyotes crowd. And honestly, my office, the Arizona Republic, we have an office down there, and I'm in that office. And on game nights, the parking lot's full. It's tough to get out some nights.
Yeah.
So obviously, the Coyotes are driving business to Westgate Entertainment District, it's called. And those businesses would be more tied to the team.
And the argument that Ted's management company wouldn't quite bring in the same kind of crowd, is that what you're telling
Well,
me?
they could if you get Taylor Swift to come every night of the
All
week.
right, you're knocking down my bid. Paul, good to have you.
Yeah, good
Thanks
to
for
have you.
joining us. The Bridgestone Corporation recently broke ground on a new research facility in Mesa designed to produce bio-rubber from a desert plant. Shay Yoakum is Economic Development Project Manager for the City of Mesa. He joins us now to talk about all this. Shay, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Bridgestone, a tire rubber company. What are they building again now?
Yeah, we're very excited about the project. There's actually 2 components to the project. There's the Bio-Rubber Research Process Center, which will be built in Mesa, and then there's also an agricultural operation that will be built down in Eloy. The research center in Mesa is a multi-million-dollar investment for Bridgestone to explore the use of the Waiuli plant as a natural source of rubber. If successful, the Waiuli plant will help Bridgestone meet the growing demand for rubber, growing global demand for rubber, and also relieve some of the reliance on the Hevea tree, which is currently the primary source for rubber that's used in production today. So down in Eloy, they're going to cultivate the Waiuli plant, which is just like a shrub, and then they'll ship it up to Mesa. The feedstock will be used in the processing center. The Mesa facility will be located on approximately 10 acres of property, and just a couple miles east of the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. And probably most importantly, it will support 40 high-wage jobs.
And we're looking at the Waiuli plant right here. This again, this is the site for the research center.
That's correct. Yeah.
And the site research center should eventually look like a pretty nice high-tech operation, correct?
Correct. Over time, yeah, they hope to expand, and if they can prove the commercial scalability of the process, they look to do a full-blown production facility.
Let's talk more about this Waiuli plant here. Okay. Where is it naturally found?
It's native in the Southwest.
So it's around here somewhere?
It's all over in New Mexico, northern Mexico, in Arizona.
And how does it become rubber? Or what?
There's
Without being too technical about
well, yeah, because I'm not the guy for the technical stuff. But my understanding is there's a natural presence of rubber within the bark of the shrub. And the process that Bridgestone is working on perfecting extracts that rubber from the plant. And then it can be used in products like shoes, tires, and whatnot.
And now this is cheaper to make than synthetic rubber or more environmentally?
I think that's what the challenge is if they can produce it at a price that's competitive, it'll start to relieve some of the reliance on the Hevea tree, which I mentioned earlier, which is the current primary source for rubber.
This area of Mesa, what part of Mesa are we talking about?
It's what we call the Mesa Gateway area, so it's the southeast corner of our city.
By the airport down there?
Correct.
Is it underdeveloped right now, or you got things going down there right now?
We have a lot of things going down there right now. We have a freeway under construction, State Route 24. Our airport, as you probably have heard, is growing like gangbusters.
Sure.
And this project is located just a couple miles east.
State Route 24.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
That'll be what's being built now is really the first extension of State Route 24 from Loop 202, which will go to about Ellsworth Road, if you're familiar with the area.
Loop 202 going south or going north?
South.
Going south.
Correct. And it'll loop right to the east side of the airport.
And isn't that isn't First Solar and Fujifilm somewhere in that general area?
That's right. Yeah, First Solar is also in the area. Fujifilm is actually right across the street from the location of the Bridgestone plant.
And you're saying how many jobs again? 40? You say
40 to start. And if they can grow the operation, we hope to see the job growth come as well.
What kind of jobs? What kind of wages?
High wage jobs, so above average wages, and they'll primarily be technicians and researchers. So those are the types of jobs we're trying to grow in Mesa. That's very much in line with our economic development strategy, which we affectionately call Mesa HEAT. And HEAT, of course, is the acronym that stands for healthcare, education, aerospace, technology, and tourism.
Talk to us more about Mesa. We have the mayor on talking a little bit about
Sure.
this, but give us some more information here as to what the goal is and what the process has been and what you got going so far.
Yeah, so you probably have heard about our education initiative, which recently resulted in 5 high-quality higher learning institutions coming to Mesa: Albright College, Westminster College, Wilkes University, Benedictine University, and Upper Iowa University. Those universities were an economic development strategy, and we believe they'll complement our workforce development efforts, but also breathe some new life into downtown Mesa and West Mesa. So we're excited about that. Next up for us, we're in the process of finalizing our strategy now, is a healthcare strategy. We believe there's some sectors within the healthcare umbrella that are really strong opportunities for Mesa, and we look to take advantage of that.
Has this been easy to convince the Mesa movers and shakers? Because Mesa's had a reputation for years as being kind of a bedroom community. We don't want to get involved in all this kind of stuff. Sounds like you're getting involved in all this kind of stuff.
Well, we are extremely, I'm glad you brought that up, Ted. We are extremely fortunate to have the mayor and council that we have right now. They are very forward-thinking. In fact, they've set the economic development strategy for us, Mesa HEAT. And they've been very business-friendly and pro-economic development, which in some of these projects, like Bridgestone, for example, provides a certain comfort level for these companies to make these investments in our community, because they'll know that the projects won't be just supported, they'll be celebrated in Mesa.
Talk to us again a little bit about why Bridgestone decided. I mean, has Bridgestone had a presence in Arizona in the past?
I'm sure they've had some retail presence, but as far as a research facility, I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Why I think they chose Mesa, these big investment decisions, there's always a variety of factors that come in play. And for instance, like I mentioned, the Waiuli shrub is native to the southwest, so geographically their scope was somewhat narrow. But I think they chose Mesa for 3 reasons. And one is what I just touched on, the mayor and council and their pro-business, pro-economic development approach. But also, the East Valley boasts a very deep and talented workforce. So I think Bridgestone saw that they could meet their immediate workforce needs as well as their future human capital needs. And then lastly, the site that they chose had all the infrastructure in place. So water, sewer, gas, electric was all at the site. So from a timing perspective, Bridgestone could get started right away and could meet the deadlines that were set by the company for the investment.
I'm sure Mesa residents would especially want to know about incentives. Does it cost the city much to keep them there or get them to get to that location?
What's great about this project, there's no tax incentives involved. There's no fee waivers involved whatsoever. This is a relatively underdeveloped portion of the city. It's surrounded by large industrial users. So the only thing that we were able to work out with Bridgestone, they asked for a temporary deferral of some street improvements on Mountain Road, which is where the project's located, and the city council supported that. That's really the only deal point that we had with the project. So it's a great project all around.
Last question: when does the first Bunsen burner fire up out there? When does the research start?
So the construction's underway. They hope to have the facility operational by 2014 and hope to have their first rubber trial run in 2015.
Well, it sounds like fascinating stuff. A lot of stuff going on in Mesa. It's good to have you here. Thanks for
having us.
And Thursday on Arizona Horizon, Congresswoman Ann Kirkpatrick will join us to talk about what's happening with Arizona issues on Capitol Hill, and we'll find out about a new cancer center being built in downtown Phoenix. That's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.